Morning.
Morning, sir.
I'm currently from Lucknow.
Preet ji, good morning. Namaskar, kaise hai? Good morning, sir. So good to see you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you, sir?
Krishna Kumar is joining from two places.
Yes,
मैं
sir.
ठीक हूँ बेटे.
So good
मैं
to see
ठीक
you.
हूँ.
We are still waiting for the
That too.
audience. Sir, I have quickly prepared a teaching note. And I had prepared very elaborate, PPT also for the session. I don't know what
Very
had
good.
gone wrong with my, but then my PowerPoint is not working. Just 5 minutes before, it is saying that something wrong. So I can't, even repair the PPT. So I had to be in time. So I've left the PPT. So I will be doing the talking myself. But I have shared the teaching notes, sir. If you can allow me, I can use that to discuss.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes.
It's a small one-page case, but then the teaching note is roughly around 8 to 9 pages.
You know, Sabhuhi, this is fact. This is a fact. And in the textbook that I have, Understanding Strategic Management
Yes,
in
sir.
a simple manner,
Yes, sir.
this is, you'll find the only book in SM which has 4 out of 12 chapters devoted to managing change.
Exactly. And all important aspects, like I so beautifully and simplistically compiled. Like I've taken
Yes.
all those concepts from your chapters.
Yes.
I've tried to put in. I prepared such a nice presentation and wanted to make it a little dramatic, but it backfired.
In fact, Sabhuhi, when I passed out in 1979, the first time that I conducted a course after passing out from IMA was in Bank of Baroda. And the program was for regional managers and chief managers, that is senior executives, who were higher than me in rank. They were my superior. After 6 years of my service, I was eligible for that post. And teaching your superiors, then AGM, then DGM. In Bank of Baroda, imagine the head of department, chief of personnel, chief of international business, chief of inspection, sitting in the class. I mean, you are shivering because one wrong thing and you are out from the organization. And in the first program that I had was a seminar on MIS. And believe me, there were 35 people and 7 branch managers, senior managers. Rest all were chief managers, regional managers, AGMs and DGMs. And there was a knock on the door. And I get irritated when somebody disturbs the class. So I went out and found a peon. I said, what happened? Why are you disturbing? He said, sir, ये पुड़िया. मैं बड़े जोर से चिल्लाया, what पुड़िया? ये पुड़िया क्या होता है? साहब, पटेल साहब के लिए. And Patel was head of personnel. वो पुड़िया वो आदमी लाया था पटेल, मिस्टर के.आर. पटेल के लिए, who was DGM personnel. And then I didn't know what to do. I went to Patel साहब, माफ करना मुझे. Patel साहब हंसने लगे. And नहीं, Kumar is all right. So I found the arrogance of instructor in the class. Then there was another DGM inspection. So after we finished a particular discussion and we concluded our recommendations on MIS, then I said, okay, now we switch over to next point. And then I found DGM personnel and DGM inspection. I mean, 2 out of 8 members of executive committee of the bank. And Bank of Baroda was second largest after SBI. They started talking. They were sitting side by side. I said, look, if you people still want to continue, be prepared to sit after 6.
Okay.
If we conclude and then reopen the chapter, push. You know, I didn't know. I was mad. And all the AGMs and regional managers holding their breath, what is going to happen? This fellow is shouting at 2 DGMs of the bank. And I said, sorry, will not disturb you now. So these 4 chapters are key importance-wise. The first 4 chapters are not more than 20%. We say strategy formulation up to strategic option. And the next chapters are strategy implementation, 3-4 chapters, which outlines, in case you want to implement this strategy, what all is to be modified. So I attribute 30%, 40% importance to that. So 20%, 20%, 40%. And 60% is importance I attach to next 4 chapters, which I did not find in any of the books on strategic management. And from there onwards, you won't believe I have introduced more than 140 changes in the organization in over 40 years. And this program, when it was to be inaugurated by DGM, the executive director was to come to inaugurate. He came 1 hour later. Class had started. And the first program on managing organizational change, he says, well, I'm happy to inaugurate this program on reorganization. The understanding of management of change was reorganization only. In second largest bank of the country, and the executive director talking like that. Then I realized the biggest lacuna in SM literature, one doesn't know how about going on implemented, which involves how to handle all the issues of human resources and infrastructure, how to arrange that. The strategy formulation says which business we take up. Strategy implementation chapters, they indicate the scope of changes to be introduced, in which areas you have to introduce a change. And the last 4 chapters, 9, 10, 11, 12, are talking of how to go about doing it. And I take pride that the case, fun of case writing, which is nothing but fun of case writing A and B, is how to increase and take from 30 to 105 in 4 months. It was a copybook style management of change. And then the Apollo Hospital, and then Scooters India. Everything that you find in the 4 chapters is out of experience.
Exactly. Hardcore ground experience.
Exactly. So, Sabhi, you'll be surprised. I went to Sri Lanka. I went to Maldives. I went to Bhutan. I went to Nepal. And lo and behold, I'm going to Bangladesh. These are SAARC countries. I was asking travel agent, can you get me visa for Pakistan also?
Please don't dare to go there.
It's strange but true. I said, in 1946-47, Gandhi ji went to Noakhali. No arms, nothing. And in 1947, August 13, 14, he was in Calcutta on way to Noakhali. And Sohrawardi came to Calcutta to hold him from proceeding. Sohrawardi himself had given a call for taking of the arms to kill Hindus, Soravati, compulsions. When he found Gandhiji had reached Calcutta on way to Noakhali, he ran from Dhaka to Calcutta and stayed with Gandhiji for 1 week. And he said, Gandhi, you don't proceed there. I promise you, both Nehru and Gandhi stayed in a building and said, Gandhiji, you don't proceed. We assure you the riots will subside. And Sohrawardi ordered for stopping the riots. That is why Gandhi was not seen in Delhi to celebrate independence. He was saying, what independence? We wanted independent India. And we have played in the hands of Britishers dividing India. So I am not happy. Yes.
You are the Gandhi of this SM domain.
No, at times
That
I
day,
use.
Ajay had joined, Professor Tripathi has also joined.
You know,
So
Janki
that day we
sent
were
a,
discussing with Ajay that there is a crusader in the field of
you
strategic
know,
management, and
Mr.
he's
Professor
the Gandhi
Patel,
of.
Good morning to all.
Professor,
Good morning to all.
Professor
morning.
Patel, Ramesh Mittal, he had promised.
Good morning, sir.
And he also had a class. Good morning, please. He also had to join the class. And I went on contacting him. And he came out and he said, sir, I'm in communication. After 1 hour, I'll speak to you. And then I kept on waiting. And when I give call, he's not available. Night 12 o'clock, I said, KK has expired.
Oh.
12:05. And 12:22, he says, I was trying to contact you, your mobile was switched off. So again, I said, yesterday, KK has expired yesterday. So who will respond to your call? I mean, problem is not that we are busy. You know, just arranging visa for Bangladesh has been a Herculean task for me. I almost was on the verge of fainting while going to Akbar Travels yesterday because of serious spondylosis problem. I'm traveling 50 kilometers by car. I was almost going to faint. And then I'm gathering courage to go to Bangladesh because the things these Britishers have indoctrinated us with the philosophy you are inferior, you don't have brains, you can't do anything on your own because you can't communicate with each other in any language other than English. I mean, imagine this height of indoctrination. Macaulay brought English language so that there is some people who could be interface between Indian masses and British government. And they had high school and BA and intermediate good enough for government job. They had all the police, daroga, everybody, all Indians to shoot Indians. And the so-called service was government service. And 150 years later, we all want service because we have a mindset of being a servant. They indoctrinated, we are good for nothing, we can't do anything on your own. And it's only when I wrote the perspective plan of I Am Lucknow in 1987, and in 1989, when I got opportunity to implement, I found a job of 4 months is taking 27 years. Because neither the scope of managing change in the implementation, nor how to go about doing it is ever elaborated. And thanks to one Cadbury chairperson, Dr. Bali, who said in IIM Bangalore in 2009, strategy implementation is detailing, and detailing till we say how the person is going to eat at home the product that we are selling. So people in the 2009 convention in IIM Bangalore were shocked. What are you saying? And two gentlemen from industry, they said study implementation is only detailing, and detailing. And we don't have time to detail. If you can detail before taking the first step towards announcement of study, there will still be a lot of issues to be attended on the spot. But you will be in a position to do it. But if you are Mr. Watia, having failed once and got penalized, you will remember whole of your life and never get the courage to introduce even the smallest change. That is why this case was written by Mr. Watia himself, who was Mr. Bhatia. And the first program on management of change, executives have written cases. And this was a case, it was a short case, 1 page, but it lasted for 3 hours in the class discussion.
Oh, it's
Because
so deep.
it's
Pretty
okay.
deep, sir. Every sentence has some hidden meaning in it. So if they
I'll
start
tell you,
digging deeper, I don't know. I've just attempted to write some quick
please,
notes.
go ahead.
I'll try to share that. So
Go ahead, Sabhi, go ahead. I have taken enough time of yours. And
no, no,
I'm
no, not
quite
at
sure
all, sir. So like
you shall be able.
we just are 2, 3 people, 3, 4 people. So do you want me to, you know, take the role of an instructor and start with the questions, or shall I share with you the teaching note that I have prepared? And so
You know, teaching note, why we prepare teaching note? Teaching note, we prepare first for ourselves, but then we enrich it for others. Because you who has written a case, he knows he has complete information more than anybody else. So if you want somebody else to teach that, he doesn't know. So all the details, how are you going to raise the issue in the class? How are you going to handle the discussion? How you are going to control the discussion from getting digressed to non-issues? All that is to be written in teaching notes. So 1 page case means 10 pages teaching note.
that's what I ultimately resulted in. I don't know whether it's right, correct or wrong. I'm really
And
eager to have your
precisely,
feedback.
actually, this case I had not written teaching note because it was in handwritten form, which is in Lucknow somewhere, and I'm in Bangalore. So I was 2 days. I was just thinking how to respond to you. Somewhere I have written, somewhere I have written. Then I found the chapter 9, the case of an unplanned change. And there I found a paragraph, which are major lessons which came out.
Yes, sir, that
Is
paragraph which
something,
is there in your book as well, in chapter
that's
12,
what I'm saying.
11,
So
10.
I told you, please. So, you know,
That's the
Sabri,
crux
the
of the
best
case.
part of, yes, the best part of this kind of program is that if we read the text also, then you shall be able to apply. And then you can take class extempore. You can just enter the class, use this pen drive to project the case on the screen, and just 1.5 page, and everybody has read. Then people will start talking. Somebody will be sympathizing, somebody will be cursing, somebody will be saying he should have done it. He should have done, but what you would have done, you would have also done the same way. We all do the same thing.
I
But
know.
in case you are able to plan the change properly, believe me, I don't want to share today, but I have the most so-called insignificant achievement was passing out intermediate of cost accounting. And I have minted most of the things that I have been able to do in the organization change is because of intermediate of cost accounting. So in organization, can you believe reorganization of Bank of Baroda, reversing the policy changes in reorganization of 1972 in 1981, 82, reversing. I am Hyderabad professor's recommendation being reversed. And that was justified. And the head of international was a member of the team who had implemented the previous reorganization. And when we suggested go back to the old one model, I met him in corporate office. Sir, how do you find that report? You know, he just patted on my back, dhap, shala. ये reorganization में cost कहाँ से आ गया? Because reorganization was justified that if you change, then the cost will reduce. And they said, in my wildest, I'm chartered accountant. In my wildest, I could not think that I just could not speak and protest against the suggestion because that will mean I don't want to reduce the cost in the bank. So in every recommendation, consulting report, let not the report be shelved. So there was a paragraph on this will reduce cost to this extent. Now let me see who in the committee of execution said, no, the cost should not be reduced. So none of the reports were shelved. And the same thing happened in the report, the DPR for new IAMS. If you do it, the cost will be reduced. If the winning point of the, sorry. Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
The ministry was not agreeing in 1989 for giving funds for increasing intake. And the report was saying that incremental cost for increasing a seat in A, B, and C is 80,000. And if you permit us, the incremental cost for increasing one seat is 25,000 in IIM Lucknow. So IIM Lucknow should be given fund for increasing intake. And ministry, believe me, it sanctioned half of the budget of MHRD for technical education to IIMs, to IIM Lucknow. Out of 15 crores, 7.5 crores given to IIM Lucknow only. So the things which I have written there are all based on experiences of success. Now, I think I should stop, otherwise I'll disturb all of you. Many people have
So
to
you'll
join.
have to keep contributing in between because we
Luckily,
are very few.
luckily
And
the recording is working.
okay.
So if we are able to do develop the skill of editing, it can be extremely useful course material. And those who are not present for some reason, they can also benefit from the discussion which will follow. Okay, proceed, sir.
Okay, sir. So as I just mentioned in the beginning that I had prepared a proper PowerPoint to illustrate a lot of things with all the tables, but I'll be using the text of the teaching note that I have prepared. So before we begin, I know the other fellow colleagues here, Professor Tripathi or Ajay, I don't know whether you people have actually read this small one-page caselet. So before I pose any question, I would just wanted to know if you actually have read it or not, because usually we start with the case background. So otherwise, I'll share the summary, the synopsis myself. So can my screen be enabled to share? So I can use the synopsis so that people can quickly go through it.
Arey,
Participant,
Madam, can you make Data Sabuhi host?
just enable share, screen share.
Done, sir.
Thank you, thank you. So is it visible to everyone?
Yeah, it is visible.
Yes.
So, like, although it's 1.5-page case, but I did try to prepare a small synopsis, which can further be reduced. Synopsis comparatively it's bigger for a 1-page case. So as many of you would, some of you who might have read the case, it's about a bank which is the main branch of what they call as Kamini Bank, which is the main branch in Kenya. And here the key, the case protagonist is Mr. Vatia, who is attempting to restore punctuality of the staff in his branch, because majority of the staff was taking time off from the work and on several occasions in a day, and that would result in incomplete work, and later they would charge payment of overtime for completion of that work. So this was the key background. So to address this, Mr. Vatia, he tried to persuade the staff for being punctual by initially sermonizing them, failing which he resorted to punishing the erring members of the staff. But then since this did not yield the desired result, he started looking for the root cause. And when he analyzed the root cause, he came up with a number of reasons, but then he stuck to one of the reasons, which was going out for coffee, because amongst the several other reasons was, the staff would go out to have a cup of coffee because the bank did not have any, cafeteria or any pantry. So they said that they go out to have a cup of coffee. So Mr. Vatia picked up this reason and installed a coffee vending machine. And but then that also did not work because the staff started complaining that the coffee was not up to the standard, and they protested and refused to use the machine. Now, later on, Mr. Vatia realized that he could not address this by just installing a coffee vending machine. There are other reasons. So what he thought that since we do not have any mechanism to check the departure and arrival and the period of absence of the staff, so he decided to install a time clock at the main gate with in and out trays, and staff was advised to use the attendance cards for marking their arrival and departure, and also to recording their absence periods. Now this became a major issue, and the staff union resisted, and to the extent that some of the staff members, they started fudging the muster roll by altering the time marked so that they could claim overtime for the period which they did not work. So with seeing this, Mr. Vatia took a strong stand, and he terminated 3 of the staff members for dishonesty and fraud, and that led to that escalated the matter, and the matter was brought to the notice of the higher authority, which was the regional manager of the bank, the boss of Mr. Vatia, who learned from the president of the union, not from Mr. Vatia, but from the president of the union. And he suggested that since no other bank in Kenya has adopted the procedure, so Mr. Vatia should get the scheme approved by the secretary of the Kenya Bankers Association. Now, when Mr. Vatia approached the secretary, he was a Britisher, and he was, blown off by the fact that, why, somebody needs a time clock to address punctuality, and so he eventually disapproved the idea, and the entire, you know, the entire intervention fell apart, and the case ends with Mr. Vatia wondering where he went wrong. So basically, this particular case is about why the change interventions that were introduced by Mr. Vatia, why did it fail? So I have tried to you know, I've tried to write the learning objectives and target audience and the usual aspects of a case teaching note. So if we start with the first question, what was the challenge faced by the case protagonist, Mr. Vatia? Critically analyze his approach towards change process by highlighting his understanding of the change actors. So if you look at the change actor, like, you know, it was a case of a very case of poor planning for change. And so we can analyze as to whether Mr. Vatia had any idea about what was the nature, scope, or magnitude of the change program, or about the change actors and their role in change implementation. So this particular, the first question typically addresses how what was the challenge, the key challenge faced by the change agent. So how do we assess his approach towards change process? So before I move on to the you know, answers, if anybody could come in on this. So what was the kind of the nature of change, or what we call it as magnitude of change or change program, change task?
Thank you, Dr. Savahi.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I very much.
Yeah, so I think it's very interesting case, and you see, one of the very important issues that it highlights is the failure of copy and paste model in change management. And most of the Western literature on SM teaches us about how to program the change. In reality, every organization has its own character, its own nature, depending on the business we are in, depending on the type of people we have, their background, their culture. So planning the change from the perspective of, for example, if you look at the last phase of the case, when he approached the secretary and he said, why in the banking industry time clock is needed? So it means that nature of the services, the type of action people have, it has some other reasons, and he needs to find the motivators rather looking into how to control it. So I think this is the one of the major learnings for me from this case, and this is my perspective and take on this.
Wonderful, Professor Tripathi. Anybody else would like to come in? Like, if could comment on the approach adopted by Mr. Vatia towards the change.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, well presented till now. Mr. Vatia, if I look at what he is doing, is he is just going in with an immersion instantly. Where if we look at Levin's change model, it says there has to be a portion of unfreezing. So he is not unfreezing at all. Every time what he does is he comes up with immediately with a coffee machine. Now that is installed and he thinks the change is going to be there accordingly. Communication happens to be one of the biggest issues when we want to bring in change. Many a times when we've been looking at this literature, what we are finding is that it is never ever the formal approach, but it is the grapevine approach that brings in a better change. So that is what has to be over here. Even thinking about coming up with a time clock, that is fine. The same thing happened in case of our institutions all over the state, where many of the universities are having a timekeeper. So what people are doing is that they are coming at 8 when they are coming for a morning walk. The teachers come for a morning walk. They show their faces, and then by the time they have to pass out at 5, they show their faces. And what happens? So it is a longer period of work that the teachers are showing in the institutions. Now, how much is coming is different. Now, I concur with what Professor Tripathi was saying. We need to understand as to how the change has to come. The operations of how a teacher operates is totally different. For Ajay Prakash working as a teacher, he works for more number of hours at home, lesser number of hours in the department. Teaching in the class is just a congregation of, it is a concentration of what has been learned over the last 30 years, what we started off way back in 2001, 2002 at SM Forum. So that all comes up in that one class. Now, if I am teaching over there and if there is someone new who's teaching, then automatically things start to be very, very different. Understanding this is the problem of Mr. Bhatia.
Very well said, Professor Prakash. But this is what, so how, what do you think? What was the problem with the understanding of the change process? Like, he took it very lightly. So what was the nature of change? Was it a major change or a minor change, a strategic change? So can you come on that?
You asked me the first part to which I was answering, and that was what were the issues with this change. So that is where it comes up. Now, when it comes up with whether we call it a major change, it was a major change because it was never ever understood as to what these people are doing outside the bank. So if you talk about this specific issue, what people are doing outside the bank, and that business is brought in, then you come up with it even without the coffee vending machine.
So the major change basically was because it involved changing, the not just the outward behavior, but the basic belief systems and ethics, work ethics of the employees, because they were deliberately going out and they were trying to also fudge the muster roll. So there was some serious problem with the work ethics and culture of the organization. And when we involve, changing, human elements, and that to the core of the personality onion, if you remember the different layers of the personalities. So it's easy to change the outward layer, which is just the behavior and habits, but then it's very difficult to change the inner layer, which is attitude, orientation, and core values. So here, all of these make the situation much more, grim, and it's not an easy task. So he did not realize that it is an uphill task, and he's attempting a strategic change in the organization. He thought probably it's, and he very on an ad hoc basis, he started introducing interventions, right? So the first part, I think, in my opinion, was that he could not comprehend, the kind of challenge he was being faced with. So changing the value systems, changing the work, the ethics, the orientation, the attitude of worker is a huge change. It's a strategic change, and it requires, a lot of reorientation. Now, why we call it as reorientation? Because this was not something which was, forced from any external agent. It was within the organization. So it wasn't a transformation, but yes, some major reorientation was required. So which I think there was a problem in comprehending the nature and the magnitude of the change task in the first place, because both the breadth and the depth. So it was not just one or two staff member, it was the entire staff collectively. So both the breadth and the depth of change was high in this case, right? So that was one part of it. Secondly, as both of you rightly pointed out, that he recklessly started with introducing the change interventions without planning for it properly. So first of all, he failed in the diagnosis, the need. Although there were the analysis highlighted that there are several other reasons besides going out for coffee. People went out to meet their friends. People went out to do shopping. People went out the employees went out to do their personal tasks, right? So it wasn't just going out for a cup of coffee. That was one of the most superficial excuse that was probably given, and that was eventually, that it was found true, because even after installing the vending machine, the employees did not accept it, and they tried to reject it on the pretext of the quality of the coffee. So yes, the diagnosis was also not right. And secondly, another aspect of change basics which he missed out was, the dynamics of the change actors. So many of us would have studied that there are three kinds of actors in a change situation. One is the change target, whose behavior or whose attributes we intend to change, which is the case. In this case, it's the staff of the bank. Then there's a change agent, which is the role is being played by Mr. Bhatia himself, the branch manager. And then there's a clientele, system of change clientele. The people who desire change and who sanctions change, who have the power to sanction changes, and who have the power, who permit the change intervention to happen, and who provide resources and support. Now, Mr. Bhatia, as you could have seen, he did not take anybody into confidence before initiating these kinds of change interventions. In fact, to the extent at the end of the case, the regional manager learned about these changes, through one of the president of the union. So that was something which I feel was seriously lacking in his approach towards the change process, right? So, sir, KK sir, would you like to add something here, like to the questions so far discussed? Sir? KK sir? Sir, you're muted. Yes.
Yes. This case I found very useful, either to bring home the point in the beginning of the course on managing change, or at the end. And that is a prayer. Oh God, give me courage to do what I can, serenity to admit what I cannot, and wisdom to differentiate between two. So we all try to change what is beyond our capabilities. And having failed, we get so upset that we don't undertake those changes which are within our jurisdiction. So one very interesting thing is Mr. Bhatia thought he's changed clientele.
Exactly.
Apart from being change agent, he thought he's changed clientele also.
Exactly.
So long it was having tea and coffee vending machine is okay. But the moment you say time clock, the issue goes beyond his jurisdiction. He is no more change clientele.
Absolutely.
He is only a change agent.
Absolutely.
Now, this confusion is very, very, common management of change. So you must, and interestingly, how this dynamics of actors of change changes as the issues unfold. The moment matter goes to regional manager, for him it is not your branch. He has to see it in wider context of all the branches in the region. And when the matter goes to secretary bank association, he has to see from all banks' point of view. So we think we have comprehended the situation and taken action accordingly. Just 1 minute, please. Just 1 minute, please.
Sure.
क्या है पापा? Okay. I'm in a class Sunday. I'll get you back to you. So this basic fundamental lesson, the prayer and the actors in the change process. And that impresses upon the need for planning for change. Why this change? And Mr. Watia did not address why this change. If punctuality was the issue, you are not the most competent person so far to attend to it. Everybody is upset with punctuality in every organization. So if the issue was so easy, many other stalwarts would have resolved it. The very fact that it is not. So we all today, what is seen in the political arena is everybody is saying stop corruption. And who is saying stop corruption? The people who do it. So we don't understand. So why unnecessarily go and indulge in something where you get a slap on the face and humiliated? Do you know what happened to Mr. Watia later?
Okay.
Every day people will prick him. अच्छा बहुत lesson सिखाया था हमको.
Oh.
And he found it difficult to do even routine things which were going on. And he sought transfer back to India. So he, with tears in his eyes, says, where I went wrong. I was trying to safeguard the interest of the bank. So this question I asked the participants. So two things. Let it continue like that. I can't handle it. The second, even more ingenious solution was not all the people are going out. Some people who are going out to have pan bidi cigarette, but more important, some people were going to stock exchange. The same thing is happening, was happening in Bombay, main branch of the bank. And in lighter vein, people were saying if all the people, staff members, come to bank any day, the customers have to stand outside. Because they were dealing in a stock exchange. Half the people at any point of time would be found in a stock exchange. So how to handle the situation? Somebody is going to attend to children dropping school. Now, a very interesting thing was 5 people will be going out of 25 or 10 people out of 25 for different reasons. Somebody is going to drop school, somebody is going to stock market. So if you are able to analyze and say this fellow is going to drop the children at a school, and since there is a compulsion, he has to do it, whether you like it or not. So what can be done? Hey, तुम अपने बच्चे को स्कूल छोड़ने जाते हैं ना, जब लौटना तो उधर ये जो हमारा कलेक्शन होता है ना स्मॉल सेविंग्स का वो लेते आना. If you are going to that side, okay, ये काम करते आना. You'll find people find it very difficult. I go to stock market to trade and you add this work during the peak hours. So you'll stop going there. Or even if he doesn't do, he has done the job. ये जाके चेक बैंक में जमा कर देना कलेक्शन के लिए. या ये इंक्वायरी कराना RBI से. So if you find things are not beyond your control, try to find out what is the reason why people are going. We do not analyze the behavior. And from here you go to what are barriers to change.
Yes,
It
sir.
is this.
So I try to include
Yes.
the discussion on the magnitude of change,
Yes.
task of change.
Yes.
So
Can you show the formula?
yes, sir. You know, nature and scope of it's a function of nature and scope of change. I took it from your book, sir. I followed your book. So since you know the change needed involved the active elements, that is the staff of the organization, and required changing all layers of personality, including core values, attitude, and behavior. The magnitude of task of change was a major one. So both the depth and the breadth of change was high in this case. Secondly, if we look at the type and pace of change, so the mode of change was anticipatory because it was anticipated by Mr. Watia himself. He realized that this needed to be addressed. There wasn't any external event that necessitated it. And since it was a strategic change, so reorientation was required, which is again is an important uphill task. Again, if we look at the state of the organization, like the pace of change was high. He was introducing one change intervention after another. So that was resulting in a turbulent situation for them. So on one hand, the magnitude of change was high. On the other hand, the pace of change was also high comparatively. So that resulted in turbulent, which is not a very favorable situation for an organization to be in. So that was my assessment. And then we also looked at the actors in the change process. He could not comprehend his own scope of introducing change. So he did not consult the change clientele, the higher authorities. So that was also one of the problem. And secondly, if we look at the stages in the process of change, this was in the very first phase, which is required, which is unfreezing. He did not go for any proper planning, and he did not introduce any. He did not analyze the situation properly. The need was not identified. The root causes were not properly identified. Yes, sir.
There is very interesting thing in the process. At every step, analysis follows action.
Yes. So
not first analysis and then finding out the root cause and then finding appropriate strategy for change. He takes this and then analyzes, oh, this happened.
Yes.
Oh, this happened. So here is an interesting case of analysis following action rather than preceding.
So the next question I had formulated was, what were the change strategies adopted by the change agent, Mr. Bhatia, and why did it fail? So if we look at in the context of the change strategies, like he started with some persuasion strategy by, sermonizing at the outset, and then resorting to punishing the members who were committing this problem or committing this error. But then later on, when he realized that this might lead to some serious backlash, so he started to probe the root cause for it. So as you rightly said, the analysis was followed after the action taken. So that should have preceded actually. And even another problem with Mr. Bhatia was that even after having, identified the root causes, he did not base his subsequent strategies on the results. So that was also one of the major cause. And he then adopted the facilitating strategy of providing the resources, which is the vending machine, which was not actually the only cause. This was one of the very superficial cause. So that also backfired. We discussed how that strategy did not work because people were going for several other reasons. It was not just for a cup of coffee. So on the pretext of that, the standard of the coffee is not good, the quality is not good, the protest started happening, and the staff rejected this intervention. Finally, when he decided to install the time clock, which was again a power strategy, he did not realize whether he had the powers to do that himself. So he started acting like a change clientele, and that again, escalated the entire issue, because that ultimately, resulted in some of the staff indulging in fraudulent activities and fudging the muster roll, which he may have rightly pointed out, and he took the strong action. He terminated them, but then the entire matter was blown out of proportion. And it was escalated because he did not have the powers. He did not realize that this is not within his scope of of initiating change. So this was the third reason, which I think why his change strategies failed. So the next question was, as you rightly pointed out, one need to identify the responses to change initiatives and identify the barriers and resistance to change. So from where these resistance were emanating, what were the sources of these barriers or the resistance to change? So here we also need to understand the difference between the barriers and resistance. So since most of the obstruction was coming from the change targets themselves, the human element, so it was largely resistance rather than barriers, right? And so if we look at the sources of barriers and resistance to change, I've adopted, sir, the Zaltman's model that you have used in your book, which is very comprehensive. He has listed 21 sources which are categorized across four types, which is psychological barriers and social resistance, cultural resistance, and organizational resistance. So if we look at those lists, we find that there were psychological sources at play, which came out in the case. Changing habits was not something easy. Also, homeostasis, people wanted to maintain the status quo. They did not want the change to happen. So there was psychological barrier at play. Then there was a strong, social resistance, social reasons also, because there was strong group solidarity, found here, and the union was strongly projecting the cause of the staff, and this was happening because there was a collective benefit of this this practice. So everybody was availing this this time off, unauthorized time off. So so that could have so social solidarity could be one of the reasons of the resistance. And also, I find rejection of outsiders. Although, like if you look at in Kenya itself, it wasn't that the other branches and other banks they were having these issues. So I find that cultural sources were also strong here. So cultural ethnocentrism and cultural values and belief and norms could also be one of the source. So it was there's a sentence in the case which writes that it was the problem was generally not faced by other banks in Kenya except in Bharat Bank, another Indian bank having branches in Kenya. So this could also be one of the point of discussion as to whether this is really an Indian, or why is it that? And we find that this is actually true. We are very as we are very lackadaisical when it comes to punctuality, as collectively as Indians, especially the Asians are always blamed for being very complacent and very indisciplined. I've seen the Western world comparatively is much more more prompt and committed to when it comes to work ethics or professional ethics. So I that is why I highlighted both the cultural sources, and of course organizational sources were also there, since the top management were not taken into confidence, and the system of change clientele was not clear. So the top management could also not provide the kind of support that could have resulted in the desired change outcome. So I'm sure Mr. The regional manager would have been taken aback when the president of the union informed him of these changes happening, and he not being aware of it at all. So the entire climate of change was not very conducive. So this could also be one of the sources of resistance to change. And then there were two very interesting concepts which I learned from your book, and that was the concept of decision room resistance, which is also a very powerful source of resistance, which I feel that there are some evidence here as well. So the fact that that the regional manager tried to digress the matter and to distract him to take the permission from the secretary without getting himself involved could have been one of the reasons. And also the unions they also resorted to decision room technique, and they were sort of initially they opposed the time clock. But then Mr. Watia did try to convince them that it is in their long-term interest and benefit, but then that did not really um, uh, work well with them. And another important source of resistance is it emanates not just from the source, but also the way the change is introduced, which is very clear in this case. So the pent-up resistance in this case is very strong because, as I said, Mr. Watia's poor planning and ad hoc actions, it resulted in those pent-up resistance, which was uncalled for. If we would have taken people into confidence, identified those who were not going out and, leverage those groups and maybe taken a youth confidence and shared and created that vision of shared vision of for change. So this problem would not have happened. So this was the analysis that I thought of while analyzing the third question on the response to change initiatives and the barriers and resistance to change. So the last question I've tried to formulate is, if you were in place of Mr. Bhatia, how would you approach the challenge of restoring punctuality in the organization? So this is typically for, more innovative ways. So maybe other colleagues could come in on this. So if you would have been in place of Mr. Bhatia, what would you? So it's not a rocket science anymore because we have already identified the points of change failure, the reasons of change failure. So keeping that in context, we can think of the different interventions. Yes, Ajay.
Yeah, Sabui madam.
Yes.
Yeah, can I come in?
Yes, please.
Yeah. I also face this issue in my institution, and it is there since beginning. I personally, see to that. You load them properly. You give them enough tasks so that the chances of going out, because they have to complete their task and go even if they are going. That is point number one. You said about the Western culture versus Indian culture. When I was in Australia, I found the same thing. They load you so much that you just can't think of going anywhere else. Okay. So you have to do your job and finish it, then only you can go for a cup of coffee or whatever. And second thing is another perspective to look at this issue of punctuality is, assume you put all the mechanism that is required to ensure that they don't go anywhere else. They remain in the office, but still then, are they productive? Are they doing their work? Or are they simply wasting their time playing cards on the computer or chit-chatting or doing something nonsense? Right? So two different perspectives here. So only, answer to that is load them properly, assign them right tasks, and try to motivate them. One tactic that I used is, whenever I get to know that somebody has gone out without informing, right, the office or to me, then, I ask my HR people to just give them a call and ask them, sir is calling you, right? Director is calling you. Oh, please come. And then, they cut a very sorry figure. Then this word, goes out that, sir may call you anytime. So, that is how we try to, address this issue. Otherwise, it's a very, very tricky issue to deal with for the head of the institution, for the head of the organization, because they will find their way out. Whatever you try to do, they will find their way out, and if they really want to do it, they will do it. And one another subtle thing that I used to do is, I used to just put a green mark if they are coming late, if they are going earlier, just a line. I don't talk to them. I don't, chat about it. Just draw a line in their attendance muster. And I think it has worked for me. So all these little things has worked for me. And In the end, I would rather think it like, are they doing their work? If they are doing their work and if there is nothing pending there, or if there are no issues there, then I will not worry too much about it. Not that- So these are some ways that are coming to my mind. So, yeah.
Oh, very valid points, and very well put. But then the issue here is not that it's not that they were not loaded with tasks. They had their task to be, but they did not complete it, and uh, they would charge overtime payment to do that, to finish that task. So it wasn't just the outward behavioral issues. It was also the ethics, the the, uh, the value systems which was reflected here. So uh, you were the director. You are the director of your institution. You had all the powers to initiate and affect changes. But then poor Mr. Vatia here, he was not aware of the scope of his powers, and he initiated the change. The change intervention of installing a time clock could have worked if if he would have taken the top management and the other change clientele into consideration and into confidence before uh, uh, launching it. So that is where he failed, perhaps. Yes, sir.
More than the change clientele, I would say change actors. Consult them, talk to them, and like
Absolutely,
Tripathi
absolutely.
sir said, grapevine, spread the rumor that I'm going to do this.
Yes,
What do you
absolutely.
think? And initiate the discussion. Just get a pulse of it, what is going on in their mind. And
Absolutely.
then slow, small steps, I think, should have been led to this time clock instead of just going into time clocks.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there
Here,
was no apps. Yes.
if you permit me to go ahead, a small one, what I would say is until and unless there is a sense of being, until and unless people they think that they are a part of the institution, they are a part of the country, they are a part of what they're doing, this kind of any kind of an external imposition on them is not going to bring in the desired results. So if you know that there is a clarity of what your job is, what would say that you are going to complete your job and you complete that much and that is appreciated, people will be there. But what normally, especially if we look at Indian structures also, once again, as we are talking about different climates and things like that, anyone who's doing his work, you want them to be there by 9 and then they might even leave by 7 and all, and they don't get the appreciation. So change management would much more be on to what the mission of the organization is and how much people are aligned to that. And if we come on to that, then you'll find that the people will be there. Issue is it time management, or issue is a direction that we are moving toward the institution. Many a times people would be working much more than what is desired and expected of them. So once again, we do come up with a time clock, we do come up with an organizational effectiveness through change. But the first part, that is organizational effectiveness, is more important than time management itself. So the change has to be much more on to organizational effectiveness. And if once that is there, people are going to produce much more than what they would be doing it today. Thank you.
Yes, sir. KK, sir, you wanted to come in?
Two things. One, Ajay has rightly pointed out, is it my obsession with punctuality? Why I want punctuality is the task not over? Or is it just incentive system that people get overtime? If you have overtime system and people are getting like this is organizational barrier to change. You remember in Do Matter case, the work would not being done at night shift because night shift is for sleeping. How to stop it? Same thing, similar example I had in IIM Calicut. Many security guards in night duty, they used to sleep. So what to do? And non-teaching staff used to live in city. So one day I took night, I could drive, so I took out my car and I went to main block. And I found, or before that, my own residence, the person was sleeping. So I just went and lifted his cot and he fell down. Then he realized it could be a major issue. He said, sir, what happened? I'm sorry, I was sleeping. You were here to sleep. We pay you for sleeping. If something happens to my house, who will be responsible? You have to guard my house so that I can sleep. I am awake and you are sleeping. The next time I went to main block, night 2 o'clock, and I found a security guard was sleeping at his chair. I just overturned his chair and all of a sudden he woke up. Two such instances. And then few times I started doing midnight. You know, as I open my door later, midnight, this security, and I go out, this security guard at my residence used to caution all the security guards around. देखो साहब का गाड़ी निकला है, किधर जाएगा पता नहीं, कहीं जग सोते हुए वो तुम्हारी कुर्सी फेंक दिया तो तुम कुछ कह नहीं सकते हो, क्योंकि कुर्सी फेंक दिया, तुम कह रहे हो क्या कर रहे थे कुर्सी पे बैठे हो, कुर्सी कैसे फेंक दी, जब वो कुर्सी उठा रहे थे तुम उठे नहीं, मैं सो रहा था. So सोने पर तो वो तुमको नौकरी से निकाल देंगे. So gradually with 3-4 instances, I reduce the frequency, not every alternative once in a week. Totally uncertain when I will go, and totally odd hours to check. Number one. Number two, sorry for saying so, but I used to go around moving, instead of calling faculty members to my room, I used to go to their room. So I'll just go and say, hello, Ajay, कौन सा research चल रहा है, कौन सा क्या findings आ रहे हैं. I mean, then people started thinking we are being monitored for research. And if he is not able to answer, they say, why don't you take up this research? This is very significant. So there's a lot, what you call process-oriented controls, which are not structural controls. I just thought of bringing this case to your knowledge so that you understand the complexity. And second thing, once you fail in a change attempt, your credibility goes down. You are making soft the ground for managing next change. So if you fail once, the chances are you will fail again, because the people will think, oh, ये बहुत बड़ी बात कर रहा था, ये तो कुछ नहीं कर सकता है. So keep in mind, if you find you may fail, calculate the risk. What will be dent on my credibility? If it is going to be high, ponder what alternative ways it can be done. And Dr. Bang is very interesting. We used to have a lot of, bickering and politics in the institution when we were having batch size of 30. When the batch size was increased to 100, the intangible outcome came out was that all the bickering and politicking stopped, because people were so hard pressed for time. There was no time for chit-chatting and bickering. So you rightly pointed out, are you monitoring who is doing what and how is loaded? If you are sitting in your office all the time and not even giving a call, then people will take you for a ride. So this small case raises issues to push the participant to read the whole chapter of basics of managing change. What is barrier? What is resistance? Is it active resistance or passive resistance? how it develops, and how to counter it. Should I use persuasive strategy? Now, persuasive strategy, when we are introducing computers, branch managers were apprehensive of using computers. But since they were nominated by the regional office, and they 55, they were finding it very difficult to touch the keys of the desktop. They were thinking it will give current. And the young person who was sitting by side, they were saying, press this key, press this key. Believe me, I had to catch hold of their hand by wrist and ask them to press the key. Once they found, oh, it's not giving shock. So they started touching the keys. So it was helping them. Another thing was, do they find any benefit in that? So when computers came, the problem that branch managers, they were reluctant. And then when they found, oh, if I have the data on of instruments sent for collection, and they used to record it and monitoring was difficult. And if you have on computer, then you can do analysis of which are the collections, which are the instruments sent for collection, and which are 6 months old, 3 months old, 2 weeks old, 1 week old. Just with a click, you know the total analysis, and then you can follow up. Branch manager found it has solved the problem of not able to track collection delays. So when they find, okay, they found one useful application of computer. So when the executive director came for validatory, regional managers and branch managers, they started saying, sir, what do we do with this training if you are not providing us computers? And my executive director, and in fact, even chairman, was surprised that people are saying, why don't you give us a computer? Now that was facilitative strategy and organization barrier to change. You are saying, please take down note, and you are not providing pen along with copy. How will people write? So this I found a combination of the strategy: persuasive, re-educative, facilitative, and power. Use power strategy at this last resort. If the time is short, change is very important, and only few people who are resisting, few powerful people who are resisting. If a large number of people are resisting, powerful, power not, they will actively sabotage, and they may even kill you. So do not have overconfidence on your hierarchical power. So this action on change without proper analysis and planning for change, making next change. And believe me, when you have change, it requires several small changes of different types. When the class size was being increased from 30 to 100, 13 major changes were to be done. And each change involved social barrier to change, uh, uh, what is that? 4 different kind of barriers to change, cultural barriers to change. But the moment people start seeing the psychological barrier, you know, when the bank, yes, when the bank was going for agricultural loans, the lead districts and Baroda. And when the AGM issued transfer order after promotion, then people said, we'll not go. Then he had to issue. And the AGM of Ahmedabad zone was union secretary, officer session secretary. So morning issues order And the order was, people said, we will not accept promotion. We are foregoing promotion. The order was, if you do not go, and this was promotion case, if you do not go, disciplinary action will be taken against you. I mean, you are having promotion, and with promotion, you are saying disciplinary action will be taken. And in the evening after office hours, the team will come down and say, management high, management high, management high. Against the circular that he himself has ordered, that he himself issues. Why? Because people did not have any idea of UP and Bihar. So if they are transferred on promotion from accountant to branch manager and posted in Mirzapur, they are apprehensive. मुझे तो जंगल में वीडियो में मर जाऊंगा, जिंदा नहीं वापस लौटूंगा. So how to overcome that? Their persuasive strategy works. So people who were posted in Mirzapur, people who were posted in Bareilly, they were introduced to these people. भाई तुम बताओ इन लोगों को वहां क्या यूपी में इतनी खराब हालत है, तुम्हारे स्टेट में 3 करोड़ है, वहां 18 करोड़ है, कैसे जी रहे हैं वो लोग? So when the staff who was posted in Bareilly and Mirzapur, they explained to officer, अरे बड़े अच्छे आदमी हैं, चले तो जाओ वहां एक बार देखो, सुन बातें. Then people went, and they started liking it. So persuasive strategies also, when there are psychological barriers to change, persuasive strategy works very well. So all 4 combinations are useful. A lot will depend upon your analysis on factors for restraining forces for change. Okay, carry on, Subhi.
Yes, sir. So like we were about to close the
Carry on,
discussion.
Subhi.
Yes, sir. The discussion is almost closed. Like the last question was like, how would you approach the challenge of change for restoring punctuality if you were in place of Mr. Bhatia? So Mr. Professor Srinivasan, Professor Ajay, Professor Tripathi, all of them have given their ideas about doing so. But then as it emerges from the case that the shortfall was largely on the planning side, the poor planning for change management. So if one could address that, like for example, establishing the necessary relationship with the clientele system, which was completely missing in this case. If that could be addressed, then a lot of things would have been easier. Secondly, his diagnosis was faulty, despite having identified several causes. He just stuck to one superficial cause and recklessly introduced the change without taking people into confidence, and did not select anybody he did not leverage any group for affecting the change. Then also the problem was with the his understanding of the objective and the scope of change. So that we have already discussed. So that could be taken. And then the major part was how to deal with the barriers and resistance to change. And a lot of ideas have been have emerged from the discussion, and your inputs are very powerful. So yes, besides involving the member of the change target and clientele in the first place, one needs to motivate people for change, create that sense of urgency, buy-in, commitment, and create that shared vision for change, which was completely missing. As you rightly pointed out, if one keeps sitting in the office and coins formulates strategies like this, it is bound to fail. So one has to be on the ground and understand things and create that buy-in from the people for this change. So and of course, communicating effectively also is very important, and empowering them for that short-term wins, which was completely missing here. And finally, it's when we initiate any change, one should not be complacent. Like he initially he did try to punish people, but he thought probably it would backfire, but he could have worked on it probably. Like as Professor Srinivasan said, like the amount of task that could be given, that could have been enhanced. So all of these things, he did not work towards maintaining that change. He quickly, he left it off, and then he started because he was not even clear about the reasons. So once we decide all of these, and we go you know more methodically and more structurally, then after introducing the change, one has to also make the change stick, as Potter says, like you need to devise ways and means to ensure that this becomes institutionalized, and refreezing mechanism becomes powerful. So that's the last point that I wanted to make. I think that's all from
Can I
my
take a minute?
Yes, please.
Can I take a minute, friends? Why I brought this small case in the picture, it was not a strategic change, but when you say change new strategies, and you are trying to develop a new strategy, and that you have to implement, which is moving away from the existing setup uh, constellation of elements. It does not involve only one change. It involves several changes. And you have not mastered the art of managing small changes, medium-sized changes, and you take up a strategic change that I am going to internationalize as a forum. you know, you will not be able to even comprehend what is happening. So uh, yesterday I was asking Professor Shekhar Chaudhary, शेखर पाकिस्तान चलोगे, चलो लाहौर चलते हैं. तो ही से अरे नहीं 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 कुछ नहीं करने का है, मत जाओ. मैंने कहा सिर्फ लाहौर ही क्यों? मैंने लाहौर में 3 एमडीसा इंस्टीट्यूशन हैं और अमृतसर से वो 1 घंटे का रास्ता है. सो आई कैन गो टू अमृतसर if I get visa in 1 hour. I can reach Lahore and visit these institutions. से नहीं जाने का है. Then I asked Akbar Travels, can you arrange visa? बोले पाकिस्तान की वीसा नहीं अरेंज कर सकते और हम आपके लिए कोई गाड़ी दे दें. मैंने क्या बिगाड़ा उसका, क्यों वो मेरे को परेशान करेंगे? तो बोले वो आपको पाकिस्तानी एम्बेसी में जा करके वीसा मिलेगा. Something which is against Pakistan. We are faculty members. So 2 major things emerge from my work, which I want to convey to SAR countries institution also, because I visited 4 and I know the problems are common. Costs are increasing. And I think I had 2-3 instances that you can dramatically reduce cost. If you dramatically reduce cost, either your surplus will increase, which will give you investable resources. Suppose with 2 lakhs of fees in IM when I was there in 2009, 2 lakh to 26. If I can save, if I can keep the fees at 2 lakhs, 24 lakhs is saving per student and multiplied by 300. This is the saving that you have, which becomes investable surplus. And we don't need to invest. We don't need to seek funding for investment for growth. Our countries, all of us, crying for investment and not using the investment made. So all assets created, a good part are apparent resources, not operant resources. And this is where, whether it is Pakistan or Bangladesh or Myanmar or Sri Lanka or Maldives, only when I went there, I found how to use available resources. We all must do that. How to reduce costs, all think of. And if the country is not having we as faculty members are responsible because we have not shown them path how to reduce the cost, how to make education more inclusive. Without Sabu, without you, without Jani, without Ajay, can I even think
So your voice is
conducting a
breaking.
course? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, now we are.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. In between, your voice is
If,
breaking a bit.
because I brought my face closer to screen.
Now it's good. It's good.
So without support of faculty members and faculty, increasing the faculty members who are willing to join this endeavor, from 5 faculty members to 15 faculty members to 30 faculty members, if we have to go to some countries to help them, are we doing any crime? How to set up an oxygen generating plant? In case you need it, you can do it. If you can reduce the cost of course material from 1,000 to 25 rupees, is there any crime in sharing it? And how do I share it unless I know the person and they're willing to listen? Once you have this rapport, you can discuss with them without physically going there. You don't need visa, you don't need money to go there, you don't need to make a stay arrangement, all these things. Once there's a rapport between people, then through communication, without face-to-face communication, you can do the job. And it is this I'm looking forward to. Teachers are the only group I find which have tremendous multiplier effect. So Sabu, next time when you go to class for this particular topic, you'll have a lot more confidence. You don't need other support. You don't need Ajay can conduct the class, Shiv Tripathi can conduct the class, because you're all on same wavelength in terms of conducting discussion on this topic and making sense. Now, at the end of everything that you say, this is the lesson that is emerging. In video, we can write, in video, we can add text. So after you finish discussion, and they say, actors in change process, missing. Types of, the analysis is to precede action rather than follow action. So these text we can add in the video, and then very crisp 5-10 points will make sense to people having seen the discussion. So gradually I'm finding if you can edit the videos, we can make very useful videos. That is, you can play video or people can see video on their own for simple appreciation. Why I had to write this book? Because these things were not available in the books that I taught, used to teach. And therefore, 6 years, 7 years after retirement, if I had to say sorry for what I did not teach you, because this was not available in the text that I used for teaching. But when I found I can reduce cost to 25 rupees, 30 rupees by pen drive, you have just now projected the case. You say short summary. If you have short cases, one page is you can project even on modes like this, and how convenient it becomes. So in years to come, we have to learn how to have soft copy, how to upload it on website, how to download directly in the class to initiate discussion. And once discussion starts and people are getting interested, then you can add all other information that you wanted to share through exhibits by just giving hyperlink. So next page comes, this is the, for example, from here itself, you can link the do we matter case. I mean, the organization policies, there is no focus on spares and repairs. And it becomes very clear with the short case. that we need to change the policies to give incentive for repairs and spares. Okay, now we
Yes,
go
sir.
to
Thank you, sir.
next. Uh,
The Scooters India Limited case by Professor Tripathi.
Thank you. And after wonderful discussion, I think that on change management, I think there is not much to add to this. But I have some points on the Scooters India Limited case, and I know that most of us have gone through the case, if not now, earlier. So everyone is familiar with the context of the case. I would like to share some next. Can I, sir, share the PowerPoint if I can be allowed?
Karanpreet ji, make him the host. I think Mr. Karam.
Sabui ma'am is host and she can make him host.
Yeah, Sabui can make him the host. Dr. Sabui.
Do I make him host?
Yeah, so just
Yes, ma'am.
Is it done?
yeah, thank you.
I also had prepared such beautiful PowerPoint to discuss today, but somehow today morning it did not open up. So
Can you see it now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I'll start with just I have few slides and few questions to discuss. More from the teaching perspective for the case. You all are familiar that this is a beautiful case of transformation, and we, during our program of MTP, we also have undergone, if not you have studied it recently. First thing I would like to start with, like, how can we use this case effectively in our sessions? And from the two perspective, what type of program we can deliver this case and what themes we can touch by using this case. So what are your perspectives on this? How would you like to, if you have to use this case, how you think that what are the topics, themes you can cover, and how, what type of programs you can use in?
Can I come in?
Yeah, please.
So it's a powerful case related to managing the challenge of transformation in a ailing public sector company, and it covers all aspects of turnaround management, which includes financial, marketing, production, and then of course the human resource management, and the role of leadership, how the role of leadership is very critical in such situation, and how in turning around a sick company. This case can be very beautifully used for all these purposes.
Thank you, and that brings the issue of like, and that's very important in any strategy or change management process. And this was also touched in the last case, that interfunctionality, that when Professor Krishna Kumarji mentioned that it's not one change, there are series of changes, and it's sometimes a layout has to be changed, sometimes at the same time the marketing has to be changed, the layout has the impact on behavior, the behavior has impact on HR practices. So the interfunctionality dimension, as you mentioned, that's the one area that this case highlights beautifully, that in managing the entire transformation, it was not a 5-step or 4-step or 6-step theoretical process. Rather, it is more of living a change. And this case can be used as a good example of how in practical the things are different from what we as academicians record it in theory in terms of models and approach. Particularly for postgraduate level education, this is very good. In my opinion, it can be used in any of the MBA classes. Strategy is one, but maybe if you are offering change management elective course, that is another where you can. But this course is also case is also very powerful for executive education and for MDPs, for training program, because this requires this brings the new perspectives on how executives they are thinking, and what are the other dimensions can be added to it. So as an educator, what I feel that we use the teaching note, and even for every session, I remember I have written only few cases so far, but when I use my own authored case, the teaching note changes after every session I discuss it. So that's the beauty of or dynamism of this, that because I learn from the participants who bring the different perspective, particularly that how to things work and what does not work. So that is the one thing I would like to add to this. As highlighted by Dr. Sobohi, I would request if you can reflect on how do you see the specific role of leadership in managing the transformation? So what's your perspective? Anything you would like to add in this?
You're asking me to
anyone I would like to, if anyone would like to, with reference to the Scooters India Limited case, you highlighted like earlier, the leadership is one important issue in managing the transformation. It is because it completely changed the situation. So how do you see that? Any one of you?
As I said, the role of a leader is very critical in a transformative change situation like this. And in this case, we find that it hovers around the leadership of Dr. Sahai, right? And had it not been for his leadership, the company would have gone for closure, right? So his conviction that he could turn around the company, his perseverance with all the hassles that was going around, and his negotiation with the the ministry and then the BIFR and the other bodies, the financial institutions, all of it, it is a that played the role in reviving this company. So I think the very the conviction of the leader, the what should I say, the consistent action on his part to not give up, that led him to steer this a very rough phase of change and transformation in this company. So at every level, be it his negotiations with the banks when they were not ready to give him the money, even when there was orders at hand, and then negotiation with the government, the bodies like BIFR, and then with the negotiations with the employees, the staff, the union, the multiple unions he had to face. So we find that there's a huge lesson about how leadership can make a difference in these kinds of situations, right? So usually this was the only case which was a which you know succeeded even after being referred to BIFR. So that's also one of the reason, and the entire credit goes to the leadership, Dr. Sahai, right? So
Thank you for the inputs. I think Dr. Chaudhary, Jaideep, like to add something.
Yeah, thank you. Uh, so what I believe when it comes to the role of leadership, uh, the first thing is the leader has to establish himself or herself with a positive intent. If I share my own experience, when I took over a charge as a registrar of the state university, uh, there was some issues in terms of the various, you can say, the structure as a such. The decision making bodies were having a multiple authorities and reporting. So the first thing I did was to create, that is, you can say, the single line of command kind of thing, to bring this, reorganize the structure. So what I experienced, just to develop that kind of, you can say, belief in yourself, and with the positive intent, the people believe you, and they come forward, they initiate, and it creates the positive environment in the organizations. And that made, you can say, this transformation and change, you can say, very, you can implement in a successful way. So the trust in the leader, I think it plays a major role, and you will have to develop that kind of belief in your, you can say, subordinates or employees, and try to involve everybody so that they can contribute positively and they come forward.
Thank you. It's a matter of how good ecosystem you create for the change, and exactly. So yeah, based on the inputs that you shared, I see that some of these issues are important to discuss from, as you have also highlighted. And yes, Professor Krishna Kumar.
Shiv, can I
Yes.
add three important
Yes,
things
yes,
about the application of this case?
yes.
This is the only case I have come across so far worldwide where a company comes in net profit for the first time in silver jubilee year. A company coming in net profit for the first time in its silver jubilee year. There is no parallel in the whole world. That means strategic management subject has such a power that you don't need to give up. Even a BIFR case where the BIFR asset closed down, even that company can come back in net profit subject to leadership. Number two, this is one of the case which is has a humane turnaround, not surgical turnaround. And that has tremendous lesson. Humane turnaround means identify the surplus staff which is not required, retrain them, reskill them, change their competence, and redeploy them. And this is not Dr. Sahai or I am saying. Mr. V. Krishnamurti said that human turnaround means there is a surplus people who are not required. You are paying for it, but not getting it. So they are apparent resources. They are not asset. They are turning out to be liabilities. So how to convert liabilities into asset is by assessing whether they are required there. If not, take out from there, return them for another job and redeploy so that they can use, they can be used. This, if we had projected to the whole world, all the companies which were facing problem of sickness could get lesson from India through us, through teachers. Don't give up. And India could develop the fine art of introducing human turnaround, whether it is a Tata Group, whether it is any other group, whether it is public sector or private sector. And human turnaround in turn implies sabka saath, sabka vikas. Everybody has to contribute to the prosperity. And such powerful messages can be brought out with the help of this case. One more thing, managing a turnaround and transformation. Transformation doesn't take place overnight. Transformation could be two types. One is when the situation is not bad, which I call rejuvenation type of transformations. That is, your performance is going down, not commensurate with the changing environment, but you are not facing crisis or loss of profit or sickness. The other one is turnaround and transformation. You are in deep red. So first you have to take like this, cross the border of sickness, and then change the culture. That is unfreezing, moving, and refreezing. It is refreezing where transformation takes place. Turnaround is when you are moving. Refreezing leads to transformation. So unfreezing, moving, and refreezing. These things can be explained with the help of this case. So instead of managing transformation, you can use the word managing turnaround and transformation. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the input and some other issues which already you have highlighted. One is the stakeholder management is also an important dimension in managing the entire process, and as right from convincing the ministry till the other stakeholders, if you look in the case from time to time, that is another dimension which is from leadership perspective, which is very important. Second is the behavioral aspect of leadership. Like if you see in the example, when the most of the senior leadership team operating from the city office, he decided to enter into that was the first point of connect, but that also displayed the behavior, that how he came a bit closer to the others and tried to start playing from the front. Interfunctional issues, you see that it was from the financial management to marketing to production. At the one point of time, people did not believe that they could produce this much capacity of the three-wheelers, and it was possible for them to raise more than 70, 80 units. And then convincing them to developing the trust in them, within them, that they can do it, they could do it, and at the same time enhancing the marketing capacity. And in doing so, in between introducing the extra workforce, as Professor Krishna Kumarji already highlighted, that it was a human turnaround. So of role and shift of contract, I would say. It was not a termination of the employment. It was for the excess workforce. Some took volunteer retirement, it's fine, they were happy. But for those who could contribute and they had the skills, so they were retrained, and some of them very effectively aligned to the supply chain. So maybe they started making more money and contributing in a better way, and at the same time helped in reducing the salary bills or on the side of the company. So to production, operation, the finance management, marketing, the company which was earlier confined to selling the product only in Lucknow and surrounding areas, and thinking of going nationwide, and the type of processes to be managed, taking the regulatory approvals, going to Pune, Ahmednagar workshop, testing it and doing it. So all these things doing together that requires a type of interfunctional approach where one could see that if I am going to make a change in operation, what type of changes are desired in the perception level of the workers, and if I am going to bring the changes in the perception, am I not going to enhance the over expectation, or so balancing the sort of thing across the functions and mapping it, that is what is also an important lesson that we learn from this. And most importantly, when we look into type of human change, transformation, turnaround and transformation that happen, so what we call, highlighted by some of the scholars in strategy, the shared purpose and shared value. So, and that shared purpose, everybody started living the dream, that believing and living the dream that we could do it and we could change it. What Professor Krishna Kumarji also says and has written as Hanuman effect. So that was major in the play in this case, because initial situation very negative, and changing that to making everyone believe that this negativity is not going to continue and we have the capacity to change it positively, whether it was production or marketing or financially uh, changing the tangible results in terms of the financial outcome. And that helped in developing an organization which is more integrated and focused towards the cause. So these are some of the points what you contributed and also what I could learn from this. And I think that if you like to add anything or you would like to reflect further, please. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this leadership behavior, you have brought out this point in a very interesting manner. Leadership behavior, one thing which I noticed was absolute transparency, not having fear that unions will beat us. Second thing, the enormous sacrifice that you make at personal level. Do you know Dr. Sahai was not accepting his salary? He was traveling in second class. He was traveling in metro, not flying and taking taxi. And this word which I got from him made a lot of sense when I went to Calicut, and from the first week when they say Janda uncha rahe, hamara promotion do varna maar denge. So I said, unless I get what your entitlements, I'll not accept my entitlement. So I never used business class throughout 5 years. Other directors were doing it. Here my people are struggling for salary, and I'm using business class for what? To get more rewards points so that I can have free journeys. And this, everything that you do, we may feel we are very smart, but those who think they can hide something from the workers, they are biggest fools. You are traveling in a car. You think driver is driving at high speed 80 kilometers, and you are talking to another fellow colleague, and driver is listening everything what you have talked. The security guard at your home is watching who is coming, who is going, whether you are using your staff or you are preparing tea yourself and giving to your guest. These matter a lot. And many times my staff members sued me from union strike, saying that, क्या बोल रहे हो? वो बाहर जा रहा है, सोच रहे हो टहलने जा रहा है? अरे वो तुम्हारे प्रमोशन के लिए काम करने जा रहा है, गवर्नमेंट से ग्रांट लाए जिससे पेमेंट हो जाए, बिल्डर के बिल पे हो जाए, कंस्ट्रक्शन हो जाए, तो उसमें एक्टिविटी शुरू हो, जिससे एक्टिविटी बढ़ेगा तो तुम्हारा वैकेंसी पोस्ट देगा भारत सरकार, तब तुम्हारा प्रमोशन होगा। तो उसको डाउट कर रहे हो। So my security guard, my PN, my drivers, they used to fight and bring home what is actually the conduct of the person in the chair. वो तुम्हारे लिए भूखा रह रहा, तुम कह रहे मेरे को खाना क्यों नहीं दे रहे? So believe me, this transparency helps a lot, and people are able to see all that, and then they are prepared to respond to you, and that is manifested in the case power of the Anshan ki Shakti. Just saying I'll not take lunch makes for militant unions surrender abjectly and say, we accept everything that you say. And that day, it was biggest surprise of my life. If militant unions, which were threatening to kill the service provider supervisor, we had gun-mounted vans in the campus. And those militant unions surrender abjectly, agreeing to everything if only I take meals. So I could understand. If by once missing a meal can have such a profound effect on my militant unions, what power Gandhi would have got when he used to give call for Anshan. Now, this, I tell you, I have seen Mr. B. Krishnamurthy, I have seen Dr. Sahai, very quarters. They were not drawing anything from the organization. They were only giving to the organization. And with new ideas, they were very good in seeing which are the resources which we thought are asset. They have not remained asset. They are turning out to be liability. How to assess them and say how to convert them to be more useful to the organization. B. Krishnamurthy, be it Dr. Sahai or my experience in IIM Calicut, with the same number of people, you were able to increase activities and growth. And with that, the whole economics changes. And the other stakeholders like ministry, when professors get promotion because of that, those who are diehard opponent, they also start thinking, if we had not thought like that and requested us to cooperate, we would not have got promotion. It is this style of communication of the Krishnamurthy that they say, what do you want? Do you want apple? And Vaka say, yes. Okay, come along. Let's work. And he starts digging the ground. Then he puts the plant. And he keeps on encouraging, we are going to have apple, we are going to have apple, we are going to have apple. The plant grows. And one day apple starts coming after 2 years. And they say, my God, yes, he had said you will get apple. This is the way they communicate in a way that is like magic. When say, do you want to have this apple? And people are able to see an apple in his hand. And they say, yes. They say, let's come, let's work towards it. And 2 years later, you start getting apple. It is this mesmerizing way of communication that if people start believing everything that the leader says, because they feel that if we keep on following him, we'll get the desired result that he's promising. And some days, if time permits, I'll show you 7 items were given to me with the strike. And when I wrote down on the board, I'll try to strive for it. And when I completed my inning, workers cleaned all those 7 points. Yes, we have been able to achieve it. We have been able to achieve it. We have been able to achieve it. So leadership behavior Transparency is one. Credibility by action. If he's saying we are doing something for you, does he do? Another thing which Ajay, maybe someday we have interfunctional issues that is not easy. We have to have a full program of 1 week or 20 hours on relationship marketing, how marketing and operations are related, how operations and human resources related. So integrative, the moment you say something, all connected issues start occurring to you. How will I handle? बहुत अच्छा कर दिया एक बात सीख के प्रहलाद क्लास पढ़ा रहा था अल्टरनेट स्टडी आगे सब कुछ हो गया एंड एट द एंड ऑफ इट वंडरफुल स्टडी प्रहलाद से पैसा कहाँ से आएगा एंड देयर इज नो मनी so are you able to see the entire set of issues connected with different strategic alternatives? It is where the need for enhancing integrative thinking ability. Integrative thinking ability is able to help in identifying the gaps, in identifying ideal resources, and in identifying opportunities which can be created using that ideal resources. So these two are extremely important things which are coming out from this case. Scooters India, three-wheeler was there, but ministry is not prepared to admit. But when the companies start turning around, then they agree. But what happens in public sector, after 5 years, the term is over. Next person whom you find is nothing but maintainer manager. They come to be chief executive, not to as a what you call turnaround or transformation leader. So they are maintainers, not visionaries. Okay, anybody else who would like to add?
If not, then thank you everyone, and it was wonderful discussion and good learning session. And thank you, sir, for creating this opportunity.
Shiv, with this we come to the last session, 9th June, whether we should continue this kind of discussions or not. Because Jaideep, I apologize for you for writing very nasty one-liner. Don't forgive me with the elderly people like you if I start saying that. Don't worry, Zabuhi. Loss is Jaideep's, not yours. So please forgive me for those hard words that I use often, and you continue to forgive.
Sometimes we need those harsh words, sir, to actually get turned on. It's okay.
But sir, that keeps us motivating, sir,
Yes.
to do better and better.
So Jaideep, sir, Dr. Jaideep was ready, but then he had some issues later on.
But that's what I was saying. Professor Jaideep is here.
No, we finally made it. He said he would be traveling.
Yes.
But the most surprising part was Professor Tripathi could make it, and
Yes.
even at the last moment, like he made a very wonderful analysis.
That is the power of this group, Professor. That is power of this group. They respond to each other's call. And I think if we keep on discussing one or two cases like this, for example, there's a very interesting short case, 1.5 page, Growth Bank, which integrate operations with finance and human resource. And from the case, it looks, ये क्या एक exhibit OB का है, एक exhibit finance का है, ये क्या चुचु का मुरब्बा बनाया हुआ? And finally, they find it's neither finance case nor OB case, it's a strategy case. So, likewise, we can have occasional talks instead of structured. And I think we start identifying cases. And now I know if we have to conduct a class on turnaround and transformation, Professor Sabuhi and Professor Shiv can be requested to conduct that. If I have to have something on this, Professor Janki can be requested. So unless you people had expressed, it was difficult to find out who can contribute what. And can I request people to have an MDP on a particular topic. Now, Shiv, for SAR countries, one course or
Yes.
3 sessions, if we can have this case, if we can have case of do we matter, if we can have case on Hanumans of India, if we can have fun of case writing, that will build confidence in them. And not only that, visit to Sri Lanka, visit to Maldives, 2 video cases have come out. 2 video cases have come out with visit to Sri Lanka, clarity on stakeholders, what you call the invisible stakeholders, जो हमारे पीठ के ऊपर लद्दू हो जाते हैं. हमको तो विजिबल स्टेक होल्डर दिख रहा है, हमको तो शिव दिख रहा है, उसके ऊपर कौन कौन बैठा उसको परेशान कर रहा है वो दिखते ही नहीं है. तो एक वो आया. दूसरा ये, जब लोगों को इंटरेस्ट नहीं क्लास में तो कैसे करें, तो वो मालदीव के उससे आया, विच आई कॉल मल्टी डिप लर्निंग. तो पहले केस पढ़ाते हैं, जब लोग कहते हैं अरे ये तो पॉसिबल ही नहीं है, कैसे पॉसिबल है, तो दिखाते ये हुआ है. सब लोग कहते हैं कैसे हुआ, then they are prepared to listen to you. अगर ऐसा कर सकते हो तो हो सकता है. Then the real part of learning comes in the second part. First part में तो ये आता है एक कि ये तो पॉसिबल ही नहीं है, कैसे 4 महीने में एक सेक्शन बढ़ा सकते हो. फिर जब दिखाते हैं 4 महीने में नहीं, ये 4 साल की एक्सरसाइज थी, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन 4 महीने में हुआ है, 13 चेंज मैनेज करने थे, each one very involved. Then people are prepared to listen. If you can do it, then you can have growth plans. So we will continue like this from time to time, not in a very structured manner. We'll give a call if people are available on a particular day, then we can discuss cases in a more relaxed manner. And we'll have video recording so that we can edit it and make available to others.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank
everyone.
you so much, sir.
Okay.
Sir, I'll share the teaching note that I have very quickly prepared. And I would want you to give me inputs on that to improve, because it was very hastily prepared. So I would want you to give me them at your pace.
Not
Yes,
me, not me. Sabhi, not me, others. Get feedback
Okay.
from others.
So, okay, I'll write it on the group to give me
Because
feedback.
they will give you feedback and they will use it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Everyone.
Jaideep.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, Shri.
Thank you, Jaideep. Sorry for hurting
No,
you.
it's okay. Nah, that
Next time-
motivates to do better, sir.
Next time, Dr.
We
Jaideep,
need
you
this
will
kind
handle
of
this
support
case.
and encouragement.
Jaideep, I have a very good case for you. In case someday you are available, let me know. I'll share with you and then you can conduct that case.
Nah, I'll definitely do, sir.
Okay.
So there is another
you.
case when you talk about turnaround case. There is another case. I think maybe many of you are aware. The GSFC, that is a state public undertaking in Gujarat. That was also a turnaround case.
Yeah, that was something I remember Professor Renuka had handled once.
Actually, I had written a case on GSFC when I was part of this kind of SMF, but it was quite old. But that brings me that turnaround point in my mind.
Very good. Okay. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you all.
Thank you, KK sir. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Wish you good luck. Good health.